Hey everybody, it's Harry from Dilbertesque BBQ, the YouTube channel that teaches you how to master barbecue so you can spread barbecue love. A lot of you enjoyed the tallow injection episode where I injected it with different kinds of product, including Wagyu tallow, my homemade beef tallow, clarified butter or ghee, as well as pork fat, bacon fat or lard. In this episode, I'm going to extend that test, but this time I'm going to put it onto the paper to see if the different types of oils on the paper make a difference. So we'll figure out if you need to switch up the oils when you wrap up your brisket. Let's put some Wagyu mop now. The brisket is drying up, and I told you guys you only apply the mop once you see the crust beginning to form. Try to mop every 30 minutes and spray a little bit of water. First one is the Wagyu. Second mop is the homemade tallow. If you mop too early, you're gonna find out your rub is gonna fall off. So please don't make the rookie mistake. Let your meat crust before you apply the mop on. Next one is the clarified butter. We use a clarified butter or ghee. And the fourth one, we're gonna mop it with some pork fat, bacon fat, or I'm gonna use lard. All right, looks absolutely gorgeous. We'll do the scratch test, and there's no rub on the finger, no rub on the finger, no rub on the finger, just oil, and then the crust is set. Now it's time to move to the wrap phase. First one is the Wagyu tallow. So we're gonna put Wagyu tallow on the paper. So as I mentioned to you guys earlier, what is Wagyu? Wagyu means the cow in Japanese, and the Wagyu actually is a kind of cattle raised in Japan. And what is special about Wagyu is the terrific marbling. You've seen my many Wagyu videos I've shot using Wagyu from Snake River Farms, Australian A9s, and so on. And you've seen my A5 from Japan brisket video. That brisket was about $1,700, sent to me by one of my students who owns a restaurant in Scottsdale, Las Vegas. So I'm going to put the tallow, in this case the Wagyu fat, onto the paper. For those of you who heard me mention earlier, the Wagyu has a Delta 9 mutation. That's how they were selectively bred, with a Delta 9 mutation. It has a very marbled meat, and they carry the bloodline in Japan throughout all the different generations of Wagyu cattle. And that's how they end up with such a wonderful marbled meat that is very special. The reason that the Wagyu is special is because of something called oleic acid. So this fat, right, is liquid at room temperature. And this oleic acid has a lot of subtle beef flavor. It gives you a terrific mouthfeel. People call it the word unctuous. Unctuous means that it's very pleasurable when you have oleic acid in your mouth. So when you eat a Wagyu steak, it's absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to wrap it using my double flip method. Wagyu tallow. Moving on to the homemade beef tallow. This is my DIY tallow. And the way you make tallow, as you've seen in my previous video, you just cut up the brisket fat, put it in the disposable pan, throw it in your pit. About the same time, you put your brisket in, and this brisket took about 5 hours to crust. That's probably enough time for you to render your own beef tallow. You can buy beef tallow also, but I'm too cheap to do that. I prefer to render my own because that fat's going to be thrown away. And if you render your own tallow in the pit, I believe it to be superior. A lot more flavor, a little bit of smoke, versus the clear white beef tallow that you can buy on a place like Amazon. 3.5 times the length of the brisket. Fold over once, fold over twice, fold over 3 times, tuck it under. Third one is the clarified butter. or ghee. So in case you're wondering what clarified butter is, it's just butter that has all of the solids and the moisture rendered out of it so that it doesn't burn. And clarified butter is very popular and common in many cuisines, especially in Indian cuisine. When you cook with clarified butter, it has tremendous flavor. If you ever had any Ethiopian food, the secret to their food is using clarified butter. So I'm going to paint the clarified butter on the paper now. And the last one, we're going to use bacon fat or lard or pork fat. All right, 2.5 hours in 275. Taste the brisket here. All right, here's the one with the Wagyu tallow mop and the Wagyu paper tallow wrap. Super delish. Here's the one from the regular do-it-yourself tallow mop as well as the tallow wrap. This one is the clarified butter mop, clarified butter wrap. This one is the pork fat or bacon fat or lard, a mop as well as wrap. All right, eating a third round now. All right, folks, I've taken one for the team, eaten my way through about 4 rounds of the differences between the Wagyu versus the tallow versus the ghee, which is clarified butter, and the final one, which is pork fat or bacon fat or lard. For those of you who don't want to wait till the end, I'll just tell you the conclusion. The winner of this shootout is really the one I did not expect, which is the pork fat. So, long story short, pork fat rules. And for those of you who are going to stay for why, I'll explain. In terms of appearance, I think you can tell they're all pretty good. In terms of the appearance, so appearance is sort of a tie. So I don't think the choice of your oil or your tallow makes a huge difference in the appearance. In terms of the taste and the tenderness or texture, which is how, like me, I'm a certified barbecue judge, that's how we judge. The sensation of texture of the meat, the rigidity of the microfibrils of protein as you chew it together with the taste is sort of a combination score. So what I mean is that I'm a competitor. So when I turn in meat, on the day that I turn in meat that is perfectly tender, that has a right perfect texture, but the taste is off or not super duper charged for competition purposes, that will score higher than an entry that tastes really, really good, but the texture is off. I hope that makes sense. So the choice of the tallow mop and the tallow wrap that you want to use is really a combination of the texture and the taste. And in that regard, there are subtle differences between the one done with the Wagyu, which is a lot of what we call oleic acid tallow, versus the regular tallow that I rendered myself in the pit by putting the pieces into a foil pan to render, versus the ghee, which is really clarified butter, just butter without the solids and the moisture, and then plain old pork fat. The differences are subtle, but I'll kind of give you some numbers to give you a sense of what I'm thinking, right? So if, let's say today, with my just 4 data points, the lard seems to edge out the rest. And before you guys start to jump to conclusions, this is just an anecdotal test because this is statistically insignificant, mathematically void. You cannot do a confidence interval with a margin of error with just n equals 4. Okay, and then using me not in a double-blind example. So the lard has just a great mouthfeel. That's the best I can describe it. So when you bite into the one done with the lard mop and the lard paper wrap, it's just a little bit more oiliness and pleasurable mouthfeel. That's the best I can describe it. They're all really, really good, but I would rank the lard as number 1. And if you wanted a score, if the lard was a perfect 10, and I'll count my way back, the Wagyu would be like a 9, then the ghee and the tallow is kind of a tie. So I would characterize in terms of numbers and relative strength of the pleasurable flavor of the tallow. The ghee and the tallow would be like a 8.5. The Wagyu would be like a 9, and then I aged the lard to a 10. And that's just my impression today using just the sample. I'd be curious for you guys to try to see if you can replicate what I did. Share with me your results. There is something maybe magical about pork fat that has a great mouthfeel versus beef fat in a side-by-side comparison. I'll bet if I were given this and it wasn't side-by-side and I didn't know what it is in a double-blind situation, I am not sure that the results will be the same as what I reached today, which is side-by-side eating, and I ate 4 times. So it's not like I ate once. I went through it systematically, ate both the point muscle as well as the flat muscle, the moist and the lean, right? So I got a sense of both muscles, and I have to admit, the one done in lard, both the flat muscle or the lean and the point or the fatty, they both tasted better on lard. Please try this experiment at home. Don't listen to me. And the last thing I always tell you guys, all right, never believe no. The only way to know is to do it yourself. So on today's example, lard wins by a slight margin. Wagyu number 2, and third place tie between tallow and ghee. So that's just me doing an anecdotal test. So now Mr. Beans is jumping on me. Let's give him a test and let's see what he thinks. All right, I have my 4 samples here, which I labeled, and let's see what Mr. Bean wants to eat. And you guys told me that he likes to eat from left to right, so I'm gonna turn it around, go this way like that, and see what happens here. All right, Beans, I have 4 kinds of brisket for you to try with different tallow mops. Let's see which one you pick. Now, don't pick the one on the left, okay? I want you to be careful. I want you to sniff it first before you taste it, because people are complaining that you eat from left to right. So whatever's on the left wins. So I hope that that's not true. I want you to sniff it first, okay? Take your time, don't rush, and judge it carefully. Okay, he's approaching it, he's sniffing it. Okay, he went for the tallow first. Smelling it. He went for the ghee next, clarified butter. He went to the lard. And he went to the Wagyu. All right. So Mr. Beans scored the tallow, followed by the clarified butter, followed by the pork fat lard, followed by the Wagyu. So that was his composite score. And that is different than mine. I picked lard as the number 1. He picked the beef tallow as number 1 after sniffing his way. All right, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I had making it. You guys know that I'm pretty thorough, and because I used to be a computer programmer, I basically approach this like a computer program. I do what we call case statements, where I test case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4, case 5 until I derive the right conclusion. I have no special talent in cooking, and the way I won First Place USA in so many meat categories on the National Barbecue Circuit is because of this brute force attack. What I do today is really not so important as the process I use. So if I can impart some knowledge to you today, it is not that I know how to cook. It's just that I know how to be stubborn enough to try every single combination, working that combination lock in the gym until the combination lock opens by sheer brute force. And if you've seen my videos, you're wondering, why does Harry need so many videos to get to a right result? Why does he just do one test? Nope. I do everything incrementally. I only change 1 parameter at a time. There's about 14 parameters involved in cooking brisket from start to end. This is just one of the 14. And I split the one of the 14 parameters into probably about 15 or 16 different tests I need to do. So cooking is a labor of love. Not every idiot in the world wants to do what I do, but this is what I do because I always am a curious person. I want to know. I never want to believe. So please don't believe me even though you watch my video and you lasted this long in my video. Don't believe me. Always know. And the only way to know is to do. So please do. Send me your comments and questions. Let me know your result. Let's all gather more data points so that we can up our brisket game and reach the pinnacle of brisket perfection. All right. Now, this video is only possible because of my Patreons sponsoring the meat. You guys know it's a really expensive cook. A brisket is about $70, $80. I've spent probably over a couple of $1,000s buying briskets, cooking all these different episodes for you. Thanks to my Patreons, we're able to provide free content on YouTube. So please like, subscribe, and share, and go check out patreon.com/Harry Soo if you want to crowdfund my work to provide more barbecue knowledge in the world so that you too can be a hero in your backyard. Thanks for stopping by.